All right, thanks for joining me for this episode of Athlete Hack Podcast. Today I'm talking to Ricky Warren, the bodyweight guru. So, Ricky, how's it going, man?
Good, mate. Thank you for calling. Just looking forward to chatting about what I love, really. So,
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for agreeing to be on this. It's always interesting to talk to people that are kind of really passionate about what they do. So, can you give me a little bit of maybe your training history? What got you into bodyweight training? And we'll kind of just go from there.
yeah. I've been doing well. My dad enrolled me in judo when I was 7. So that's where it all started for me. Started doing that, and then ended up. When you do martial arts, you're always doing bodyweight exercise. So you're doing push-ups, pull-ups, and handstands, and all that kind of stuff, right? So that essentially evolved over a period of now 23 years, because I'm 30 now. So I've done about 6 different martial arts for about 5, 6 years each: Wing Chun, Thai boxing, boxing,
Oh, nice.
wrestling. So yeah, and then eventually what happened about 5 years ago, I got into tricking and parkour at a gymnastics gym,
Oh, awesome.
and I was loving that. I was about a stone and a half lighter, nice, getting into the air, spinning around and stuff. And then I saw people on the rings and on the bars, and I thought that also looks pretty cool. So I'm going to try that. And then that's where I just found this incredible passion and love for just using strength in my body, And then the last 4 years has been me getting better at calisthenics specifically. So that's kind of the route into it. Yeah.
All right, cool. So, I know you coach seminars, and so yeah, you coach seminars. Do you also coach people in person, or do you strictly keep it at seminars, or do you personal train? And how's your coaching journey been?
Yeah. So actually, when I was 14, 15, I was helping out teaching a Wing Chun class. So when you get higher up and say
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
teacher's not available, you'll help to teach. And I took a couple of classes myself back then. And then I've been now teaching group classes for about 6, 7 years in different martial arts and in a bit of bodyweight stuff as well. And the PTing's been something I've been doing for about the last 2 years. So it's all sort of collectively evolved into this, because I used to work in an office full time and just do this on the side because I loved it so much. And then
Yeah.
eventually it got enough for me to actually leave that job and do this full time now. So
Wow. So I'm guessing making that transition I'm guessing it was scary, but you're like, if I'm going to commit to this, I've got to go full in, right?
that is, and I think most of the people like yourself as well, everyone that's in this industry has had to make that decision at some point. I'm going to
Yeah.
cut this whole 9 to 5 rat race thing and just do what I love and give it a go.
Yeah.
So,
Cut out the 9 to 5 and start doing the 5 to 9.
oh yeah, exactly. 5 a.m. to 9 p.m.
All right, man. So, obviously, you're really passionate about bodyweight training. Can you give me, maybe some of your favorite movements and some of the overall benefits of bodyweight training?
Uh, yeah, if we're talking about benefits, I guess. Look, I've said this quite a lot. The human body is the most complicated and intelligent machine in the world. So if we can't control this, we've got no chance of controlling anything that happens to us or around us. We need to be in control of ourselves, and I think it's a very spiritual path to go on. That's why you find exercise a big part of Shaolin monk temples and things like that. It's quite a spiritual thing. Aside from that, aside from the spiritual benefits of being more connected with yourself, there's obviously strength gains in it. There's control. There's power. There's speed. All movements originate from the core. Everyone knows that. If you move your arm, the first thing to tense is your core, leg, anything. So the main thing is that calisthenics is teaching your body to work holistically as a unit, because that's what it is. It's not a series of individual muscles that just works by themselves. Everything works together. So when you train that way, it's going to help you with any type of performance that you do. So you could be a dancer, you could be doing CrossFit, playing football. It's going to give you that strength to help coordinate your body. I think that's the main benefit of it for people that actually perform.
Yeah. So, one thing I've noticed with people that get into bodyweight training, one, obviously, any strength that you get is going to help your body weight to strength ratio. That's really important to sports. I feel like guys that get into pumping iron and building strength, maybe outside of Olympic weightlifting, those guys seem to be pretty explosive, especially sports of weight classes. But
Yeah.
yeah, they tend to kind of lose that power to strength ratio. Like they're getting stronger, but the ratio isn't exactly in line. I think you guys do that really well.
Ah, yeah. Is it? What was the question, sir? Can you repeat for me?
I was just singing your praises, wasn't
Oh,
it?
just
But so I was going to wonder. A lot of you guys actually seem not only pretty strong. Hello, you there?
yeah.
Sorry, lost you for a second. Yeah, so not only are you very strong, but you're very flexible as well. Like, how much emphasis do you put on kind of flexibility, and how much of importance do you think that plays on kind of your speed and power and general athleticism?
I actually need to stretch more, to be completely honest. I think we all do, you know. I mean, there's no, you know, but it depends. I don't think flexibility has a huge role in speed and power. Personally, I think it has more of a role in form. So if you want to be able, like plantar flexion, pointing toes, straight legs, piking, for example, I have the strength to pike, but I can't pike properly without bending my arms a little bit because my flexibility is just not there. I can't do that. And I mean, another way it might affect you. Let's talk about a handstand, for example. So if your shoulders can't go past here, for example, if you can't get them level and they can't go past here, when you handstand, if I'm upside down right now, you can see the problem that's going to cause.
Yeah, you're going to have a real banana shape.
Exactly. So the legs will counterbalance the arms being at an angle, and that's why you get that banana shape. So if you don't have flexibility in certain parts of your body, it will restrict your movement and ability to keep form. But I'm not sure it plays a huge role in speed or power, actually. But that's just from my perspective.
So I know you said you started in a gymnastics ring, doing some tricking, and then you saw the rings and the bar and stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between gymnastics and calisthenics? Because I think they're very easily confused, aren't they?
Yeah, I think. I mean, from my knowledge, I would say gymnastics is a sport that has been developed over a lot of time, and there are a lot of rules that have been placed into that as a result of it being a judged sport. Now, alongside that, there's techniques such as when gymnasts do a muscle up, a gymnastics muscle up uses a kip. It's not the same kip as you do in CrossFit. It's a bit more strict than that. It's got straight legs, but the body bends at the core. So what we do is we don't bend at the core at all. We keep everything perfectly straight, and we're just using raw strength. So the reason gymnasts kip like that is because once they get above the bar, they want to be doing giants, which is swinging around in the handstand position. They actually flip off the bar and do some pretty powerful plyometric stuff up there.
Yeah.
It's not possible to get that high off the bar unless you use a kip. It's just not possible. Like so,
yeah.
And so you've got freestyle calisthenics athletes who will kip to get in their muscle up because they're looking to do a move above the bar. But then you'll get a bit more purist calisthenics athletes not doing any of those kips and just working on the strength. So it all depends how you like to move and what you like to train. But I'd say the main difference between the two is that there are no rules in calisthenics in terms of what you want to do. Like if you can make up a bit of movement on a bar and it uses some kind of strength and technique, then it's calisthenics, you know. And it might not be strict form the way you do it, but it's still moving your body and it's still using some kind of strength and power to do it. So I think the freedom in it is the same as tricking and parkour versus tumbling. So tumbling is in a straight line. There are certain rules to it. Feet together. They never jump off one foot. But in tricking, you've got corkscrews and stuff like that. So I think it's just a more free type of movement in strength.
Yeah. So do you feel like that that little bit more freedom in it kind of gives you the opportunity to explore your own balance, explore your own self, and kind of come up with things maybe other people wouldn't, that are like unique to you? Do you think that's pretty cool?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's what draws everyone to it. So, you know, it's just there's no limit. If you can achieve it, you can achieve it, and everybody will want to do it too. You know, that's what's beautiful about it.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I know you're saying a little bit earlier, you're just talking about kipping. And obviously CrossFit, a lot of people criticise the kip and pull up. I think there's kind of the right person to do it and a right way to do it, and it's definitely not for everyone. I think maybe the average person just looking to get a bit stronger, it's a bit of a risky move to put on them. However, I see it as an advanced plyometric pull-up, because obviously you're getting this stretch reflex to the bottom, boom, it pops and you're snapping back up. And I've seen that as maybe a progression to some of the more advanced maneuvers on the rings. But do you ever play around with kipping and just for fun have a go at it?
I have had a go of it, and I'll be the first to admit, actually, there is a technique to it. It's not something you can just do. Like, you have to practice it, you know. And I think if you kip with a loose core, I think if you do anything with a loose core, it's dangerous. But if you kip with some kind of tension in your core, what I see kipping as is a movement for the purpose of creating endurance. Like, people kip because they want to get as many pull-ups as possible in. If you're going to do it all strict form, you're training for strength. So it's not that I dislike them. It's just that's not what I train for. You know. So if you were trying to do 150 pull-ups, I don't know anybody that can do 150 strict form pull-ups in one go. But I can probably name a few that could do it kipping. So it just depends what you're training your muscle for. So above all, I think we should respect all forms of movement, and as long as they're safe and that they're helping someone achieve something, they're respectable forms of movement, you know. So
yeah, that's a really good philosophy to come to, because I think anytime you go on watch a YouTube video, there's obviously going to be the comment threads are just like, oh my god, I can't believe these people like but yeah, I think you find that the people that actually participate in these things tend to have a lot more respect for people that do maybe other sports that are different from theirs, and it's just a little bit of a different perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let's see. With bodyweight training, it's a very, very functional skill. Saying that, like you said, you've put on 1.5 stone of muscle doing it. So there's obviously some kind of hypertrophy benefits there. So it does make you look good. Can you go into maybe some of the reps and sets and schemes you use, and some of your theory of why you think it develops that?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm talking, so the foundation of everything bodyweight is the basics. So you're starting with literally pushing and pulling your body in a variety of angles, right? And before we start doing Maltese planches out here, we've got to just be able to push like this off the ground. So, you know, the push-ups and the pull-ups are the foundation, and I never stop doing those. So if I'm doing a rep day, it will generally consist of sets of 30 pull-ups strict without coming off the bar, then muscle up into dips and about 50 dips, and then come back down for as many pull-ups as I can finish, drop to some squats, and that'll be one set. Probably do it in about 2 minutes, sometimes 3 if I'm tired, and then have quite a large break, 5 minutes before I do the next one. And you'll just get a massive pump from that, because you've got no choice to change the weight you're using. That's it. You can only use what you've got. I mean, you can use a resistance band, but that's when you're trying to learn a technique. You know, like if you're trying to rep something out, you want to rep it with just your body, unless you can't handle it. So if I'm repping, that's what I'm doing. If I'm learning new techniques, then I'm not doing any reps at all. I'm purely focusing on the movement and trying to connect myself with gravity, balance, what's working, you know, and symmetry. So, you know, if one shoulder starts to drop when you're planching, that's not good, because it's gonna run through to your hips and to your legs and everything. Everything should be aligned and straight. So, in terms of why it causes hypertrophy, I mean, you're causing a lot of stress on the muscles, but in the way that it works, you get a lot more action on the tendons and the ligaments in certain areas that you might not get from weights, because in bodyweight when we're focusing on strict form, often we're using straight arm strength, which transfers all of the strength. If my arm is bent, I can use these muscles here. If I extend and flex there, then all the strength is going to move to my shoulder, and it's also going to move to the lats and the chest, or the torso and the core, basically. So through extending our limbs out and straightening them and using certain types of movement, we focus all of the strength where it should be coming, which is the torso, rather than from the extremities. And it's like, you know, you spoke about Ido Portal before. So he's mentioned reverse end. I don't know if that's your next question. I don't want to run into that, but
So you just run on that.
So you know, you've got Ido Portal who talks about reverse engineering. So I mean, essentially, my interpretation of what he's saying is that you should add weight to the movement, not movement to the weight, if you want to use weights at all. because your body is the first piece of weight that you should be able to move properly. Once you exceed that and you can start moving it in all kinds of planes and motions, then start adding weight to your body so that when you're doing what you normally do, it becomes harder. But if you're picking something up and just moving that for the sake of moving it, it's not a functional thing, you know. So I think that when he's talking about reverse engineering, he's saying, why do we try to change the shapes of our bodies purely for aesthetics when we should actually be trying to achieve something with our bodies, and the benefit will be aesthetics as balanced, you know? Yeah. But there is one thing I would say, actually. It's very, very difficult to achieve hypertrophy of the legs in calisthenics because the body weight isn't enough, because you walk around on your legs all day. So this is where I really, I do CrossFit as well, but for the squats and the deadlifts and these parts of things. So the areas where I need to work my legs, I always weight them, and CrossFit is what I go to for that. So.
Oh, awesome. So I was actually going to ask about that. If sprinting and maybe a bit of parkour, some tricking, that kind of thing. I mean, obviously that can generate a lot of explosiveness in your legs, but you think to really get that full development, that squatter's ass, you really do need to put a barbell on your back.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we can just go to the basics of how many reps cause what type of achievement, right? So you've got the low end of the scale with strength, then you move into hypertrophy, then you move into endurance, and then so on, right? So at the end of the day, if you're looking to bulk up your legs from an aesthetics point of view, you want to go for the hypertrophy. But if you're looking to create strength and endurance, then calisthenics is fine. If you're looking for power and pure raw strength, I would even say something like kickboxing or Muay Thai, which I still keep up with, is still good for that tricking, that explosive power. So I think it really depends on what the only reason that I look for hypertrophy in my legs and actually try to create bigger legs is because as a result of the majority of upper body weight calisthenics training, I don't want to look odd. I just don't want chicken legs. I would like to look in proportion. Yeah. But at the same time, I do feel that the stuff I do with my legs in terms of flips or MMA is enough to balance the strength. Mm-hmm. It's just I don't want to look like I have chicken legs. I'd rather actually be more balanced. Muscular.
Yeah, everyone wants to look good. It doesn't have to be a secret.
It's exactly.
So, actually, I noticed before you said you do like volume days, and then would you also kind of maybe do a hard day of like a lot of volume, and then the next day maybe do more like a technique day, and spend. How long would you actually spend trying to perfect a new skill if you're doing that on a day?
Well, it never happens during a day. It happens over a long period. So. I mean, usually we meet up in groups and we all just try stuff. And it's honestly like just having a laugh with your mates. You're just out doing whatever. And if you'll typically go off, you'll try something for about 20 minutes and keep practicing it. But when you're doing things like planches, the muscles become so overloaded so quickly that you have to give them a break and work the opposite muscles for a bit before you go back to it. So usually I will pick about 4, 5, 6 different things I'm focusing on at this particular moment, and I'll be practicing those. And then in between those, I'll do the stuff that I know that I can do perfectly and just get them stronger and stronger and stronger. So, and my sessions tend to be about 4 hours. So it's not constant work, but it's pretty much every 5 to 10 minutes something is being done. And it just lasts for 4 hours. And that's how I get my endurance up. So on the reps and sets kinds of days, that will be a max of 2 hours really, because by the time you've done that, you're spent.
But yeah, so you go a little bit longer on those kind of skill days then.
On the skill days, yeah.
Yeah, 4 hours. That actually puts in perspective how much work you can put into it and how much you guys do put in. Because I think a lot of people go down to the gym and then they're 40 minutes, an hour. Maybe they get an actual half hour of actual work done because there's a little bit of time warming up, a little cooling off, some time talking to their friends. But you're there for 4 hours. That's awesome.
Well, I'd also like to say that when you're doing, especially static holds, so the isometrics, right, front levers, planches, handstands, anything like that, there comes a point after a few reps, however many it is that you can handle, where you can't hold form anymore because you're fatigued. at that point you need to stop, because if you continue to train that move with bad form, you're teaching yourself incorrect movement, and your body is learning the wrong form of movement. So if you can't hold the move as best you can with the best form you can, and you actually recognize this is actually getting quite weak now, you need to leave it and come back to it a bit later. And that's why we drag it out for so long. So we'll just go from move to move to move to move and keep moving on, and then we'll cycle back to what we were doing, and you'll have renewed strength. You'll be able to do it for a bit longer. And so I mean, it all depends on your starting point. But if you can do 10 pull-ups strict in one go, and then you're just learning front levers for the first time, that can take anywhere from 1 to 2 months to 6 months, depending on how often you train it and how strong you're getting from doing your foundations and everything else, right? So it's really dependent on the person. It's much more difficult to predict how long it's going to take someone to achieve something, because it's based on so many factors.
Yeah, I guess unlike it just being like pushing up a straight weight, there's I guess limb lengths and body mechanics and muscle insertions and recoverability, and I can see that getting really, really complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or actually, maybe just very simple, because you just keep trying till you get it.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is the other thing, is a lot of people will see certain things in calisthenics. So they'll see a front lever, they might even see a 360 muscle up, which is from the freestyle part, whatever they've seen, and they want to go for it, they want to try it. And I think it's good to try things straight away, because then you'll actually realize what you need to put in to actually achieve it. But the way to train those things is not to try and keep trying to do those things if you haven't learned the progressions. Like anything, there are steps towards doing it. And if you put the ego aside and say, I'm willing to go right to the very basics and work up, you will achieve it much quicker.
So yeah, that approach of kind of taking a step back in order to take 2 steps forward.
Yeah,
I'm guessing you probably see that quite a lot with when you're working with CrossFitters, and they want that muscle up on the rings, and you've got to take them back a few steps to be like, oh, look, you can't even do 10 pull-ups. Like let's crack the pull-ups first.
Yeah.
Spend a month adding maybe 5 more pull-ups, and then we'll try again in a month. And like if you're doing that, would you have them do like technique drills with the transition, or do you take them right back and you're not allowed to touch it until you can hit these minimum things?
Well, yeah, pretty much it's usually the last of what you said. It's all based on their current level, right? So you might be able to do 10 strict pull-ups, but they might be slow. And a muscle up is an explosive movement. So, I mean, you can do a controlled one, sure. But when we generally say muscle up, we mean up, straight up, right?
Yeah.
So if you're trying to get on top of the bar purely just to get on top of the bar and say, I did a muscle up, actually what we call that is a struggle up. So so you've literally chicken winged up, or you've done whatever you've done to get up there, but you've not performed the movement cleanly. So it doesn't count, It's like doing a one-legged planche or something. It's just not a planche. So what I look for to see if you're ready is one key thing. Can you do in one movement an explosive pull-up to below your nipples where the bar is? Okay. Right? If you can't do that, then you're not ready to do it, because once you get to the top, you actually need to rotate over and turn into a dip, right? If you're pulling to here, you can't wrench yourself on top. You can't do it. It's not physically possible. It's physics. It's just not possible. So what you're trying to do is wrench yourself over because you haven't pulled enough. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So I would say if you're getting to there and you can't get on top, stop trying to get on top. Just work the pulls till you can pull yourself to this height. And once you get here, you're just rotating over and pushing. And you're using that momentum as you go past the bar. So that gap when you're here, you flick and then it turns into a push. But it's all in the same motion,
Yeah. So let's see. I know one of the things that's been a goal for me this year, and making small steps towards it, is a straddle planche. I think that's one of the moves you can already do. Or can you do a full one with the feet together? Or
yeah, not for very long at the moment, but a couple of my training partners, they're doing about 10 seconds now, just strict full planche. So yeah,
that's tough,
really
man.
Good. Yeah.
So how long did it personally take you to master a skill like that, or be able to perform it?
Yeah. Since I started, you see what I mean? Like I mean, it took about a year and a half before I even attempted it. And once I started attempting it, I could get it, but I had a very slight bend in here. And some people might feel that's acceptable, but actually it makes such a big difference to lock the arm. Because like I said, it all transfers to the shoulder. And once it's there, the anterior delt, you really need to create a lot more strength in this muscle here. So it depends what stage you're at. If you're able to hold straight arms and get your hips up into a tuck planche, you're definitely, I would say you're probably about 4 to 6 months away from holding a very nice parallel straddle planche for a long time, right? But you'll be able to get into a straddle planche and go 1, 2, and then fall down in a few months from a tuck planche. But that's not, again, it's not really a hold. So if we're talking about how can I get to a 5-second straddle planche, hold, clean and parallel and not at an angle, you know, it all depends on how much you train it and how strong you get from it.
So when it comes to putting in effort, obviously when you're lifting weights, recovery is quite important, especially, you know, squatting and deadlifting, you know, because obviously you get those stresses through your lower back as well as just through your muscles. Yeah. How frequently would you train a skill like that? Is it something where you could literally, I mean, obviously something like a planche doesn't take any equipment. It's kind of one of the beauties of it.
Yeah.
I mean, could someone literally do that 2-3 times a day for just a couple sets and then make progress that way? Or would you want them to recover between it and space it out, maybe do it 2-3 times a week?
I'd do more. Like you said, the first one, yeah. Like there was a stage when I was doing it twice a week to try and get it, and I just didn't get many gains. And there was a stage where I did it every day, and it just improved so quickly. Because the thing is, like, we're not playing with unnatural weight here. I've got to keep stressing that. You're working with your own body, and you can fatigue your body through working with your own body, but it's not the same as when you pick up and do your 1 rep max. Do you know what I mean? It's not quite the same, because there's something about when you're only working with your body that once you've woken up, you're able to use it again. Otherwise, you'd be in bed. Like, you wouldn't be able to move, you know?
Yeah.
So you might not be able to bench 100 again, but you can definitely do that movement with your body. So when it comes to body weight, I just think every single day, if you're trying to achieve something in particular, you should do it every day.
Yeah, that's really cool. Actually, I just thought of a little theory onto why that might be, is that, like you say, bodyweight training is this holistic experience, so it's everything. And I guess if you're training something like a straddle planche, it's not going to be the big muscles that may be fatigued, but there'll be a little weak link in the chain, a little stabilizer, a little, you know, little joint here or a tendon or something that isn't quite strong enough to let it happen. And so you're always kind of stopping at the weakest point of that weak link, you know, so you're not getting the same kind of fatigue that you would maybe pushing through a barbell squat or...
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely major and minor muscles involved in certain movements, so you can pinpoint those. But I think that if we go back to when we said when you can't do the movement with clean form anymore, you stop. Now that doesn't mean you're fatigued, like to the point where the muscle doesn't work anymore. It just means that you can't do the strict movement anymore. But when you're training with weight, you would actually keep doing that movement until that muscle just can't give anymore, to get the maximum hypertrophy, right? Because that's the purpose of it. But we don't do that. We don't train until the muscle's got nothing left. We train until the muscle can't hold the form anymore. Or that's what we do personally anyway.
Yeah, so it's almost like the exercises have like an inbuilt safety mechanism.
Yeah.
You know, to stop you going too far into it.
Yeah. Because you can't drop the weight, like I said. So you work with the weight you've got. I mean, one thing we do, like there are, like I said, when we do reps and sets, I really am trying to exhaust myself. And that does come a bit closer to the style of what you would do in weight training. So if I'm doing planche push-ups on P-bars, at some point when I get tired and can't do them strict anymore, I'll put a resistance band around my ankles just so I can get a few more reps out, you know, because that is where a lot of the serious gains are. But I wouldn't recommend training to that kind of failure every day on the same muscle. See what I mean? I would definitely recommend doing it with your own body, but not to failure with resistance bands every day. I would compare that more closely to the traditional hypertrophy training with weights. Yeah.
So let's see, if you could kind of define a few core skills that maybe you cover on your course, can you quickly go through them and maybe sing some of the benefits of them?
Yeah, I mean, we cover over 100 different exercises at the seminar we do. So it's like every single, you can say, look, muscle up, right? I can break that down into at least 10 different exercises moving upwards from not even doing a pull-up. You can start with rows underneath the bar. You can start with rows with a resistance band. Like everything, there's a movement, and then there's a supported version of that movement. There's a harder version of that movement. And then there's doing that movement with different angles of motion and planes of motion. There's doing them with one arm instead of two arms. So you can even expand it beyond just 10. So any move you name, I mean, the majority that the main things we teach, we go handstand, muscle up, advanced pull-ups, which could be, archer pull-ups to each side. It could be X pull-ups, whatever it is. So we're just changing the planes a lot. Then advanced push-ups, planche progression. So all the way from just being able to do a crow stand, which is bent arms with the knees on the outside, to doing tuck planche and moving up from there. And then we go on to things like, L-sits, planks. What else do we do? One arm pull-ups. There's the whole different levers, so front levers, back levers, introduced to the false grip on the rings. And there are so many, look, I'll give you an example is front lever. Right? A lot of people want to achieve that because it just looks like you're floating basically.
Yeah, they look so cool.
Yeah, I love that move. I love that, and it's one of the most difficult moves to perfect because it takes a lot of strength to hold it. There are so many ways to achieve that move, but the worst way to do it is to try and just do it. It's just one of those moves you can't get by just trying to do it. You have to work on the muscles that support that movement, which are mainly the lower lats to get the hips up, and then the hips themselves pushing up to get straight body. And there's so many different things we can do for that. So it's just so exciting to be able to take something like that almost looks like magic to people, and then break it down scientifically and biomechanically into muscle groups and physics. And then it's like I'm revealing the trick to you.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. It's like you do a piece of magic and they're like, wow, and then you reveal the trick to them, but it doesn't ruin the trick because it's not a trick. They understand this is actually a feat of the body, and I can achieve it, and they get really excited about it. So.
Yeah, I know you said you did martial arts when you were younger. I did start with Taekwondo and then did kickboxing and Muay Thai. Ended up boxing at uni. But I remember actually feeling really sad when I realised how easy it was to break boards. I've seen like the older kids do, and I was like, oh my god, one day I'm going to be able to break boards. And I tried it. I was like, oh.
I bet it was a boxing punch you used to do that though, right? It must have been a cross.
I think my first broad break was a side kick. And you have.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Snatch.
Obviously that was I think, there is a little bit of a trick to board breaking, but I think getting back to it, there isn't a trick to a front lever. I mean, there's things that are going to make it easier, but at the end of the day, if you're not strong enough, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's it. There is a technique for everything, but the technique alone is nowhere near enough to do it. That technique is simply your body understanding its own blueprint. It's just your body understanding what it needs to do, but it doesn't mean it's capable of it. So you then need to train to be able to be capable of doing it.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. Last week I talked to a guy called David Jenkinson, and he's an incredibly strong powerlifter. He competes at 110 kilos. He's got a 350 kilo deadlift, 320 squat, 230 bench press, monster. But interestingly, actually, he's talking about the benefits of learning how to contract his muscles and the balance and posture that he got from his childhood gymnastic training, and actually that's carried over into his powerlifting, which I thought was really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And but I've seen a lot of powerlifters, and I don't think it would carry over back to bodyweight movements. I mean, I guess he'll be a little bit stronger, but it's not the same amount of carryover, I don't think.
No. I mean, again, look, it all depends on what you're training for.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So, I mean, to be honest with you, that it does work the reverse way as well. Like, let's not make out that doing purely calisthenics is the best thing you can do for everything, because it's not.
Oh,
You know,
no.
everything is based on what you need to do. So, I'll give you one example. My punches. So in from boxing. So my rotation power for my punches, from my core, much stronger. But my speed from my snap is less, because I'm so used to all this pushing.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to stop yourself pushing punches and snap instead of snapping them when you've been pushing for a long time doing calisthenics. So there are trade-offs in everything, and then the enhanced core strength and the ability to resist force against me with just my body. I feel like a unit. I feel like rugby guys. I feel really strong.
Yeah.
Like I can take a force coming at me and I can block it and I can give it back, but my speed has suffered. That's definitely something. So that's why I've started sprinting as well, because I want to get some of that raw power back into what I'm doing. Like.
Oh, awesome.
So there's less resistance when you're sprinting compared to moving your weight on a bar. So that's why I've got back into that. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Anyway, thank you so much for talking to me today, dude. I feel like I've learned a lot. I think people are going to be able to take a lot away from these. If people want to get in touch with you, is there a website, maybe a Facebook page or anything like that they can get in touch with you guys with?
Yeah, my website is bodyweightgurus.com, and my Instagram is Rick's Official, so it's RIX.official. And then Facebook, I'm on there as well, Vera and Ricky Warren. So just add me up, and look, I'm more than happy to chat to anyone, really. If anyone's got any questions about anything, just shout me and hit me up. I'm quite open.
Oh, just before we go, a little bonus thing. On the subject of social media and Instagram, I know some of the big names in kind of calisthenics. One on the phone you mentioned, Frank Medrano. I'm trying to start a flame. You said maybe that isn't the best example of some of the movements.
Okay.
Trying to set you up.
I think really the main thing is that don't be fooled by how much of a following someone has in terms of what the quality of what information they can give you or teach you is. You really just need to look at what they're doing and compare. If you really know what you're looking for, so if you actually know what a straddle planche looks like with good form, and you see someone claim to do it, then you should be assessing that yourself as to whether or not you want to learn from them. So I would not go to a sensei in a dojo who says he can fight with swords and he clearly can't. Like I do some research into what it looks like to be proficient at it, and if he doesn't look proficient at it and doesn't seem like he knows what he's talking about, then that's how it is. So, actually I was just mentioned in Men's Fitness UK in the top 10 fitness Instagram accounts.
Oh, awesome!
So that was pretty interesting for me to be on there, and to be with other people. Like there's Kenneth Galazzo. He's one of the guys that runs the World Calisthenics Organization in America. So that was pretty good. But there's also guys out there who only have 2,000 followers who are doing planches on their thumbs. So all I'm saying to you is don't let how many followers people have curtain or blind you from what actual skill is. Research it yourself and look into what good form looks like, and then look for someone who can actually show you how to do that.
Yeah. And I think I'm being trying to push a few buttons there, but I guess
Yeah.
if someone's out there and they're promoting a healthy lifestyle and fitness, and they're reaching people that wouldn't have otherwise seen it, I guess on the whole they can only be doing a good thing, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying to amass followers to spread something positive. I just think let's not mislead people. So when we're saying that we're doing this and this is the way to achieve it, let's not mislead people. But there's also this whole thing that Ido was talking about in another one of his videos. He says everyone's a teacher, because if someone looks at you and tries to copy you, you are a teacher. But I don't agree with that. I think certain people are meant to teach and certain people aren't, because you need to not only understand how you achieved it yourself, but how to help somebody else who learns differently and works differently and is structured differently, how they can achieve it through a variety of different methods. And you also need some kind of deeper understanding about what you're doing other than the ability to do it. You know what I mean? So.
All right. Anyway, dude, thanks a lot for talking to me, and
No worries.
hopefully I'll get you on here again soon. All right.
Cheers, buddy.
All right. Bye.
Nice one. Bye.